You low-life scum.
Military budgets, specifically ours. If you're no stranger to the show, then you're probably also no stranger to the fact that currently the US spends more on military than the next 7 trigger-happy nations combined. You may have also heard mutterings about the $400 billion and counting mistake, the F-35 jets that can't fly at night, on cloudy days, or close to lightning. Not to mention, it's got engine trouble. Between 2007 and 2014, the Pentagon has had to ground F-35s more than a dozen times due to engine trouble. And that's not all. In 2008, the RAND Corporation, a California think tank that works closely with the US military, programmed an advanced computer simulation to test the F-35's fighting ability. You know, important shit. The two analysts ultimately found that the plane was an expensive piece of shit and that it, quote, can't turn, can't climb, can't run. So, one would think, based on the evidence, that we should shift our obese military budget away from giant piles of shit that would do more good in an aviation museum than protecting national security. But fuck that. These contracts have been signed, and Lockheed Martin and the engine company Pratt & Whitney, which just sound like two really conservative douchebags, aren't going to let their profits sag because of a few minor details like these. And if you're curious what these contracts look like, the latest numbers from a selected acquisition report, fancy military speak for we're buying some shit, show that in late 2013, the government signed a $8.3 billion contract with Lockheed Martin for 71 F-35s to be delivered between 2014 and 2016. On top of that, we also signed a contract with Pratt & Whitney, the ones making that shitty engine, for $1.1 billion, covering another 38 of their shitty engines. So if you're following the dates here, which I know is hard to do if you don't want blood to shoot out of your eyes, not only have we spent billions on these hunks of metal waste, we're still buying more. We're building more. We've already earmarked money for a total of 2,400 F-35s, each one ringing the cash machine at about $108 million apiece. And that just makes you feel safe. I mean, hell, if it doesn't end up working out in the end, let's just take it apart and throw the hunks of metal at the enemy. Gotta make lemonade, right? You know, the way that kids make lemonade and cookies to pay for their fucking education. Or hell, what could $108 million do for healthcare, or environmental protection, or even our own damn veterans? Imagine what $108 million, one plane, would do for a group of veterans, physically, mentally maimed. Imagine what one plane would do for a teacher, a family living on the streets staring back at a foreclosed home, one kid dying of cancer. What could that $2.9 billion in the 2016 fiscal budget set aside for drone research, development, and procurement buy? How about the cost of one flight hour for a Predator drone? $3,000 an hour. Shit, $3,000 a month sounds like a lot to me, and I'm sure it sounds like a shit ton to a lot of people, like the 45 million Americans who live under the poverty line. Or how about the $30,000 an hour to fly a Global Hawk, one of the bigger, more impressive drones? Do you think $30,000 could make a difference in someone's life? Hell, not just an American life either. I bet that $30,000 spent in an hour that could be spent over the course of 3 years to feed a family of 4 would not only make a difference in their lives, but also make a difference in that kid's life who didn't get bombed by a drone. Perhaps it would make a difference in that man's life who didn't see his wife blown to fucking smithereens right before being offered a gun and a chance to kill those responsible. Wow, you know, it's almost like that shit comes back around. It's almost like we could make a lot of people's lives better by not being such sociopathic, sick, deranged, trigger-happy, war-hawking fuckwits. But instead, this is what our budget looks like. There are literally 57,000 other ways to spend that money. And there are 57 million ways that money is being wasted. And I haven't even gotten in to talking about private contractors and mercenaries or other mishaps so staggeringly stupid, I would doubt even the current writers in Hollywood come up with them. Like the more than $10 billion in shrink-wrapped $100 bills that we dropped into Iraq and quite literally fucking lost. There really is no way of covering it all. It is a vast network of idiocy, corruption, greed, and bloodthirsty fanaticism that can only be taken down in one way. A few profit and the many pay, but there is a way to stop it. You can't end it by disarmament conferences. You can't eliminate it by peace parleys at Geneva. Well-meaning but impractical groups can't wipe it out by resolutions. It can be smashed effectively only by taking the profit out of war. Smedley Butler, a U.S. Marine Corps Major General, the highest rank authorized in the early 1900s, and at the time of his death in 1940, he was the most decorated Marine in U.S. history. This guy knew war. He knew what made it tick, and he knew how to stop it. So for all of us on the front lines or on the sidelines taking a break, we know where we have to aim our energies. War is but one of the many horrors powered by this machine. Whatever your issue, whatever you're fighting, keep fighting, and recognize that we're all fighting on the same front lines.